What's going on, guys? Austin here, and in this video, we are going to be taking a look at the extra points playoff predictions at the midpoint through this NFL season. So, we're just going to take a look at what I think the bracket's going to lay out as. Now, you'll notice that Philadelphia and Buffalo, no surprise there. Minnesota, Kansas City, no surprise there. Baltimore, I have going on a pretty impressive run. I think the move for Roquan Smith is seriously going to help their defense. Plus, they're getting David Ojabo back from injury. I think that's going to help their pass rush. Really, I'm just kind of banking on Lamar Jackson not being horrible in the fourth quarter, which I mean he's never been horrible in the fourth quarter before this year. In those those mid-3 games. So look for them to break out. Now the 4 seed Tennessee Titans. I mean, right now they're 5-2, and they don't really look like a great team, but I mean here they are. The New Orleans Saints, they have been pretty bad early on in the season. I think they're going to make a comeback, especially defensively. Wild card teams, they could get pretty random. I mean, the Chargers, who knows with their injuries? The Patriots, I mean, they really have a high ceiling, but their floor is also really high with Bill Belichick. On the other side, I mean, Dallas and New York, those are really good defenses with excellent situational football with the Giants. The Cowboys have, a lot of great weapons. It's really hard to see. And Miami, I think they aren't going to be great enough as far as consistency wise, to get one of the what would you say, the home field playoff games against Buffalo. But even with that tiebreaker, I just don't see it. But I do believe they will make the playoffs, just slightly. So in the NFC, the race for the Lombardi Trophy, this is what that's going to look like to me. Going from left to right, the Giants at the Vikings. I like the Giants. They're a great story, but the Vikings feel like a great team this year. Dallas at San Francisco. This is a rematch of last year in the divisional, or not the divisional round, but in the wild card round when San Fran went to Dallas. This time, San Fran's at home. I expect them to be even better this year, so they're taking this dub. And then Green Bay, coming back into the playoffs on the road against one of my more favored teams in New Orleans. Now, Green Bay, for them to make the playoffs at 10-7, that would mean that, right now at 3-5, they'd have to go on a ridiculous string of wins. They'd have to go, 7-2 the rest of the way. So what that means to me is that they're about to turn a corner and they're going to start winning some football games. Now, this is what that divisional round is going to look like. Green Bay at Philly and Minnesota at San Fran. And in this case, I mean, Green Bay just doesn't match up with Philly. Philly has the better offensive line. They have the better defensive line. They have the better weapons. Now, Green Bay has the better running backs. But the thing is, Green Bay's strength was supposed to be their defensive backs and their overall defense. What people don't realize is that the Philadelphia Eagles might have 3 top 15 cornerbacks this year, especially with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. They are just unbelievably good this year, both letting up less than a 40% passer rating, I believe. And then on the other side, I like Kirk Cousins and I like the Minnesota Vikings and their weapons. But San Fran just has too many good players across their entire roster. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, they've got Trent Williams, who will be there for the playoffs. Now they have arguably the best running back in the league, arguably the best tight end in the league, arguably the best, say, gadget wide receiver in the league in Deebo Samuel. Just unbelievable talent. I think it's going to be overwhelming at home for the Vikings. And then this is going to be the NFC Championship matchup. San Fran on the road in Philly. Now, what I like about this matchup is that both teams are run heavy, and both teams have elite strengths at certain positions. So this right here would be one of the best games I think we've ever seen in an NFC Championship game, just as far as full and total football, offense, defense, running game, passing game, pass rushing, cornerbacks, all of that. But in the end, I think that there's a certain experience level that the San Francisco 49ers have, and I believe that because of that, the 49ers are going to be winning that matchup. This is what the AFC bracket is going to look like. So going from left to right, the Dolphins are a great story. Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City. That's going to be such a fantastic matchup. I really hope that happens. But I can't see Kansas City losing at home in the wild card round in the playoffs. Now, New England is going to be going to Baltimore. What a historic matchup. It's really hard to get more legendary than that. I mean, you could go with a divisional matchup, but I mean, other than divisional rivalries, I mean, Patriots versus Ravens is about as good as it gets. Now, that being said, again, I'm going to favor the home team here. And then on the other side, the Chargers versus the Titans. This one I kind of went back and forth on. I think the Chargers are a better team, especially when healthy. But are they going to get healthy? That's the question. You know, Tennessee has an extremely hard ceiling due to their quarterback and passing game. I mean, no wide receivers. And Matt Ryan, or not Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill really needs help in that passing game. You know, flipping back and forth, it really took me a long time to make this decision, but I ended up deciding to go with the Chargers here. Now, moving to the divisional round, we've got the Bolts versus the Bills, and on the other side, we've got the Ravens versus the Chiefs. In my opinion, these four quarterbacks are the four best quarterbacks under the age of 30 in the National Football League. I mean, they're all better than Burrow. They're all better than Kyler. I mean, they're all, you know, a little bit better than Jalen Hurts. They're just better than everybody else. If you ask me to rank these guys, you know, it would just kind of depend on my mood for the day, who I put at 1 and who I put at 4. That being said, this could end up being one of the greatest championship weekend, or not championship weekends, but divisional weekends we've ever seen as far as the AFC playoffs. And last year was pretty fantastic. But that being said, we've got the Bolts going to Buffalo. Now, a January playoff game in Buffalo is built for the run game. And neither the Chargers nor the Bills have a great running game. Now, the Chargers have a much better short passing game with guys like Gerald Everett, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler than the Bills do. The Bills are more of a deep passing game with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. But there's going to be too much of a home field advantage to me that the Bolts just can't overcome. The huge question here is if the Chargers stay healthy. That's a massive if. And even if they do, they still might not have the personnel to match up top to bottom with Buffalo, who, you know, they might not have a singular player as good as Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, but they've got Von Miller and a massive amount of depth on the defensive line. And in the secondary, they might not have a J.C. Jackson and a Derwin James, but they've got a Jordan Poyer and they've got, Tre'Davious White and, a plethora of defensive backs that I think is going to win them this game. On the other side, we've got Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes, one of the most fascinating matchups that we could see. I mean, these teams have played together before in the regular season. Lamar has gotten the better of Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, but they have yet to match up in the playoffs. Now, what I look for here is Kansas City has too many weapons that Baltimore cannot cover in the secondary. But Kansas City doesn't quite have the defenders, as far as safeties and linebackers. They're not going to be able to cover Lamar. If this game happens, I'd look for Lamar to have, maybe 130 yards rushing. This could be a huge game for him. Defensively, I don't really like either of these teams. Baltimore takes the ball away, but they're pretty much bottom 5 at everything other than taking the football away. Kansas City, on the other hand, they're just kind of overall a below average, to mediocre defense at best. And for that reason, I'm going to take a look at the coaching. Who is going to be able to scheme up the best advantages? And if you're telling me I get to take Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid against Greg Roman and John Harbaugh, I'm going to take that every day. Now, in this matchup, to me, I think Lamar makes the difference. Like I said, that 130 yards right there, I think that's what he's going for on the ground. Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman are going to both be healthy. I think the trade for Roquan Smith might make enough of a difference to help cover Travis Kelce. So as much of an offensive edge that Kansas City has, I think just the schematic and different kind of punch that Baltimore can throw, I think that's what's going to give them the game. Here's going to be the AFC Championship. This one, we have, potentially, two of the 10 greatest running quarterbacks of all time. Certainly, Lamar, one of the top two. And then on the other side, Josh Allen, one of the best big running quarterbacks, like a Cam Newton or, a guy like, a Steve McNair, just a big guy that can just bulldoze through. But unfortunately for the 2019 MVP, I think that the Bills just have too much talent right here. So Buffalo's coming through, and so is San Francisco. We talked about that. So this is the Super Bowl matchup right here, San Fran versus Buffalo. Two of the maybe most opposite teams in the NFL. San Fran is heavy on the run game, and they just kind of want their quarterback to not make mistakes. Whereas Buffalo is heavy onto their quarterback, and they really just want to get anything that they can from the running backs. What I look for in this matchup is going to be coaching, time of possession, and overall defensive play. Now, what I like about San Fran is they have a star at every level, both on the offense and the defense, whereas Buffalo feels more deep at every level with a star at wide receiver and quarterback. Now, obviously, they have a star pass rusher and a star defensive back, a few star defensive backs, but San Fran just has too many good players. And so unless there's catastrophic injury after catastrophic injury, I believe San Fran is winning this Super Bowl. Giving Jimmy Garoppolo vindication over his 2019 season loss to the Chiefs. And for the Super Bowl MVP, it's the move that they just made at this trade deadline. I believe it's going to be Christian McCaffrey because they're going to want to utilize him in every way possible, and they know that they can, right? Christian McCaffrey in his second game with the 49ers ended up having about 180 yards, a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. In this Super Bowl, I would expect Christian McCaffrey to have about 200 total yards and 2 total touchdowns, giving him Super Bowl MVP. All right, guys, thanks for watching that video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Stay up to date on all of our future content.